Where should I live in Seattle, Washington? It is a great question, and if you are moving to Seattle or Bellevue for a job, you might have heard rumors and different discussions, maybe from friends or coworkers that you have in the area, or maybe you're coming in cold and you just have no idea where to even start, right? It's a big city, huge metro, lots of different names of things you can't pronounce, and you just don't know what in the world is going on. So today I'm going to break it down, some of my favorite areas and best places to live in the greater Seattle area here in Washington State. And I want to take you with me to come and see what these areas are actually like on the street. So I'm not just going to sit here in my office. I'm going to show you footage of what I see when I go out and spend time in these places. So stick around and tell me what you think in the comments. There's places that you're interested in, but I didn't highlight. There may be a reason for that, or maybe I just didn't get to it. So let me know where you're considering, and I will share my 2 cents there with you in the comments. So if you know me by now, I love for everybody to get oriented to what I'm actually talking about. So here's a map of Washington State. We're going to zoom in on the yellow star. This is downtown Seattle, and this is downtown Bellevue. These are the 2 huge big metros where all of the high-rise buildings are. That's typically where the jobs are oriented. Some people do live up here in Everett, another large city. It has a naval port there, and down in Tacoma. And this is a little bit further afield. I don't typically work down here. Kent and Federal Way is about as far south as I tend to go because I live up here at the north end of Lake Washington. North, I go up to Marysville and a little bit here, like in Arlington and that type of thing if you want. Granite Falls, Lake Stevens, these are all the stomping grounds, okay? If you're living further than these locations that I've talked about, chances are you are not driving into downtown Seattle or Bellevue for work. It's just going to be too far for a commute on a regular basis. Most people find that they don't want to drive for more than an hour to an hour and a half. That's really far. So hopefully if you're that far away, then you're driving second shift or sometime that's not during the main rush hour. So let's take a look at Seattle proper. Seattle proper goes from about here by Shoreline down here by the airport, and then we've got Bellevue. Anyway, there are all these little suburbs and niches, and that's all fair game for this video. So the first place I'm going to start is right here at the north end of the lake. I live there. I love it. It's fantastic. I've been doing a lot of transactions here, and this area, Lake Forest Park, is where I live. It's kind of an old woodsy town, lots of hills. Kenmore, similar, very residential. And then out to Bothell. Bothell has been hugely popular lately because it has the great North Shore School District, which a lot of people like, and it's close to 405. So as we've had a lot of tech sector growth, Bellevue is actually doing better than Seattle right now when it comes to the cleanliness and safety of the city, as well as job growth. A lot of big companies like Google, Amazon, Facebook are having employment centers here, as well as Microsoft. Bill Gates' company has been here for a long time. Hospitals, and some of the most expensive real estate in the whole state is right here in Medina, Clyde Hill, and Yarrow Point. So this is kind of, if you can afford it, it's great to be in Bellevue. If you can't afford it, it's great to be as close to Bellevue as you can be, but it doesn't start to get too affordable until you're down here in Renton or up here in Bothell. So both of these areas have had a lot of population growth over the last couple of years, especially during the pandemic. These were places that were booming, lots of new construction going in there, and having that kind of good crossover for affordability and lifestyle. As we come into Seattle, things tend to be a little bit more dicey. There are certainly more visible, like homeless people, tent campers, drug users, panhandlers, those prostitution. Unfortunately, that's what we're seeing more of in Seattle. Steps have been taken. It is getting more cleaned up, but it kind of varies. It comes and goes. So you got to be careful. And so I want to get into here some of the neighborhoods that I like and don't like, and just kind of what to expect as you go here. So Lake Forest Park, almost no retail centers. We have one little shopping, like, single story shopping with your grocery store, your UPS store, your gym, those types of things. So we have one of those down here by the lake in Lake Forest Park, and we have one up on Ballinger Way. But for the most part, we have residential only houses and not a lot of shopping centers, not a lot of bus lines. And these shopping centers and bus lines are where homeless people tend to congregate, as well as freeway exits. Sometimes they're going to be camping in woods, although I haven't seen that here. And it depends a lot on how well the cities are enforcing things. Unfortunately, when you cross over the freeway and go into Shoreline, Shoreline has this big road called Highway 99 that attracts a lot of this element. So typically the area in between Highway 99 and I-5 is not as nice. There's more potential for problems on both sides of you. And then as you get closer to the water, you're going to be getting into luxury neighborhoods. Here, Lake Washington, same thing, more luxury neighborhoods. So when you're in those luxury neighborhoods, it tends to be better enforced, and there's not as much, gas stations and little mini marts and things like that. So again, people who are homeless, drug users, problem people are generally going to be in these higher traffic areas where they can get money, be less noticed, ride the bus, those types of things. So I would say staying further away from Highway 99, you're going to have a safer feel. And same with I-5. And they are building a lot of new construction here, high-rise apartments and condominiums, because the light rail is coming in, and they're hoping that a lot of people will be walking to the light rail stops, and that may certainly be the case. It's certainly changing the landscape of what we're seeing around us. But so far, the light rail only goes to Northgate. And currently they're not charging fares. Maybe they just started last month charging fares to ride on the light rail. So Northgate, as a transit center, it's been the big bus hub previous to being the big light rail hub. And we have found that when they don't charge fares in particular, that a lot of homeless people and junkies are riding the rails. The inside of the train cars have tested positive for fentanyl, which is apparently contact transmissible. So like some people are like, I'm going to wear gloves when I go on the light rail. Sometimes it'll be one half of the train car is taken up by a weird acting homeless person, and all of the, worker people are kind of like huddled on the other end. So thus far, I have not taken my children on the light rail. But these are the reports that I hear from different people. So I'm hopeful that they will start to do better fare enforcement, especially as more people are going back to work, and some of these new buildings are getting built. But right now, the light rail situation, and even like the parking garage near the light rail, like the park and ride, there'd be someone camping out in the steps there. And so it's not a totally great situation, and I'm just trying to be honest, because I don't want you to come here and think you're going to have a beautiful time riding the light rail, and then it turns out to be something different than what you were expecting. I hope it changes. I will report differently if I see an evolution in the future, but that's what I'm seeing right now. So I really like Shoreline, actually, but it does have sort of some commercial vibe, like a lot of car dealerships here along the street. So I grew up here. It's got some great parks, got great sports for kids, and a lot of families do live in this area. But for the most part, do be careful, especially once you get down here by 145th, where it crosses over into the city of Seattle. The street becomes a lot sketchier. So places to live here that I like. Edmonds, very fun little beach town with the ferry, and a lot of people who have retired and walk around and just really enjoy the community feeling of the downtown, the tourists, the little shops. Very nice here. There's a community center. Woodway, the more wealthy, affluent, like, oh, I have a giant estate hidden in the woods and Seahawks professional football players live here and that type of a thing. Some really high-end real estate here, as well as further south in Shoreline, there's a gated community called the Highlands. But for the most part, these are small enough enclaves that they don't have a big impact and they aren't noticeable or influential to the neighborhoods surrounding them. You could be driving by a gas station and not know that, just on the other side of those trees was the gate for the Highlands. It's not like it gets progressively nicer and nicer and nicer as you get closer. Not necessarily, especially for the Highlands. Edmonds, I think, is more uniformly nice, but a little bit further away from a commuting distance. You've got to come all this way down here to get on the freeway before you can start making your commute. So, yep, vote for this area. Yes. South of Shoreline, you get into the city of Seattle, which, as I have mentioned, becomes a little bit dicey. Lake City Way is not very nice. Highway 99 is not very nice. Over here, as you get toward the water, you get view property. It becomes nicer. Ballard is an interesting place. It's historically been kind of a Scandinavian fishing village. Now, tons and tons and tons of condos are going in. They are taking down these older little fisherman cottages and going high density. My sister used to live here. She moved out because she found a hypodermic needle in her yard. The main complaint that I hear about it now, this was, 10 years ago that happened. The main complaint that I hear about it now is parking is such a concern, because what used to be a street of 10 homes has become a street of 10 townhouse developments or 10 condo developments. And so they're putting, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 family units into a lot that used to have one family unit and a driveway and a garage. So new construction in this area, they'll often do like 8 homes being built, 6 come with parking and 1 doesn't. And so I guess for the people that don't have parking, you either don't have a car or you find parking on the street. But if everybody else's condo is also forcing people to park on the street, and maybe you have 1 parking spot that comes with your home, but you have 2 or 3 drivers in your home, the streets fill up very quickly. And it can be very difficult to find a parking spot. So that's definitely something that you want to account for if you find yourself moving toward Ballard. You will have great bus access, and you do have a very nice walkable downtown Market Street and farmers markets and the hospital there and everything. There are some great community features, some pubs and nightlife here as well, which is popular, but it doesn't have great parking. It's becoming very dense. However, if you keep a boat, you want to walk to the beach, you want to walk your dog along the water, anything like that, you do have some really good options here in Ballard, and things become really hip here in like the Fremont, Wallingford area. This is where the zoo is. A lot of professionals living here, commuting down into the downtown Seattle area. Over here by Discovery Park, Magnolia, totally different vibe, not a lot of high density, mostly older homes that have been there for a while, many with a view of the water. There's something called the Magnolia Bluff where you can look out over the water. The cruise ships come and park here from Alaska and California. And so there is some amount of shipping, but you could actually walk or jog depending on how fit you are. Like my friend who was in the Boston Marathon, she jogs into work in Seattle, or you could ride your bike or something like that. So if you want to be fitness oriented, getting into downtown, or you want to be in an established, desirable, always in demand area that has not succumbed to as much high density building, then Magnolia would be a good place to look at. This is downtown Seattle. I have lots of footage of downtown Seattle. I recently had a a high-rise luxury condo listed in downtown Seattle. The downtown Seattle condo market has been hard hit by COVID. A lot of people who were living in these fancy buildings downtown have since moved out of the downtown core. There's a huge amount of construction. There was a joke that like half the cranes in the world were like all in Seattle. I don't think that was the exact statistic, but we did have a lot of new construction of high-rise buildings going in. And now I don't think we're having as many new starts of that, but they're there. And so they have to finish the building. They have to sell all of these units, and fewer people are excited about paying a premium to live downtown as they were before, when work from home was not as prevalent. So we're still waiting to see a big bounce back. Right now, a lot of the people who are buying these new construction condos are negotiating for a discount and buying all cash, holding it as a future investment, maybe even as a second home. So it's a different vibe. But the hip places are Belltown, which is right here, right by the Pike Place Market, as well as on this side of I-5 where we have Capitol Hill and First Hill. Some really cool older Victorian homes here, as well as here on Queen Anne Hill. Hospitals, a lot of medical staff in this area. And then, of course, whenever you're by the water, it's a little bit nicer. So they have some beautiful homes down here. We're near the University of Washington, the Arboretum, great back and forth access to Bellevue. So this is a very expensive little run of land around the lake there. South of Seattle here, we have West Seattle. This is Alki Point, and it's got some beautiful beaches, really kind of a more, I would say, laid back, artsy vibe here in West Seattle. Very fun and beachy, vacation-y houses and condos. I don't think we have a lot of people that come to this area as tourists, so it's more people who just like to live by the water, and they want to be here enjoying the lifestyle as a local. You can still get into downtown via the West Seattle Bridge, which can sometimes be backed up during rush hour. They also have a little ferry, which is about $5 to walk on ferry. You can go back and forth from there. It's run by the same Metro ferry bus system, Washington State Department of Transportation. Once you get south of about Fauntleroy, this is a less expensive area. And again, it's going to be nicer toward the water. Here toward Georgetown and the airport, it's going to be less nice and more industrial. They're going to have like garbage processing facilities and some things that aren't great next to residential areas. So you might have to be passing through these places to get to nicer homes here by the coast. And same thing here, Seattle, SeaTac, Seattle Tacoma International Airport. This is our biggest airport in Washington State. It has a lot of flights coming out of it, and you just want to be aware of where you are in relationship to airplane noise, fuel drops, just flight paths and those types of things in this area. And I think they typically head down toward Burien and Des Moines here. Yes, we call it Des Moines with an S in this part of the country. So I think they're mostly going this direction, trying to get out over the water so they're not offering too much noise pollution. Pretty much all south of here, we're looking for more affordable options, and affordability is the name of the game. So if you're having trouble with Seattle housing prices, start looking south. And King County ends right here, right about where Federal Way is when you cross over into Tacoma. At that point, you're going to be far enough away. It's going to be hard to make the commute all the way up into Seattle proper. Going north again, looping here around the east side of the lake, we have some nice areas. Maple Valley has been very popular and growing lately. Newcastle has become a Bellevue suburb. Mercer Island is a super prestigious luxury area. And Renton has been less nice in the past. It has some older historic areas, railroad tracks, airplane manufacturing, but they're putting more money in now. They've got the Renton Landing, they've got Jean Coulon Waterfront Park, and the Renton Landing is it's a new expensive outdoor. These pictures are not good. It's a shopping area. It's like a big indoor outdoor mall with a movie theater and lots of different restaurants, and it's definitely pretty classy. Newcastle is great. If you have $1 million, you can buy a house there, but don't worry, it gets more expensive as you go north. And Issaquah, you might not have caught this little gem out here, but you're going east on I-90 toward the mountains, towards skiing at Snoqualmie Pass. And this is a great spot for being in the foothills of the mountains. So if you want to commute into Bellevue or Seattle, you can. And if you're a huge ski nut or mountain guy, or maybe you need to do business on the east side of the state, you've got great access to those here. You've got a head start. This has been an area where we've seen a lot of new construction where there is space, but there are also still farms and people with horses and wildlife. You're really in the foothills of the mountains, so you're going to have bears and cougars and bobcats coming down here out of the hills. So keep an eye on your goats, chickens, and ponies. Moving north is Redmond. This is where Microsoft is. A lot of people here are affiliated with Microsoft. And of course, there's also the normal high-end retail shopping and that type of a thing. But this is a very popular area going up into Woodinville, which is a little bit more woodsy, as you could imagine. And then going out east toward Maltby, Cathcart, and Monroe, it becomes more rural. Monroe is where we have the Evergreen State Fair. So this is kind of a farm community. They have a huge 4-H program here. The only people we know that have horses live out this way. And again, this is another highway going east across the mountains. So Sultan is sort of one of the last residential areas. It's a very small town, but they're doing a lot of building and new construction here. So if you were, again, wanting mountain or Eastern Washington access, if you were completely working from home and looking for something affordable, then look out this way, but do be cautious if you're commuting in because of the housing growth in this area. You're going to see heavy traffic and heavy commutes in the morning and at night. We have a lot of blue-collar folks, driving the truck for the plumber, the electrician, the roofer, coming in and out of this road. And I think we're quickly outstripping its capacity there. Remember, we started here by Kenmore, Lake Forest Park, going north into Briar. This is a nice woodsy community with large lots. So they're preserving their large lot size for more privacy here. We have Linwood, which is kind of the affordable sister city to Bothell here. Bothell expands up to almost as far north as Linwood, I would say. And they both have good access here to this intersection of I-5 and 405. When we first moved back here, so I grew up in Lake Forest Park. I went away to college. I came back and moved to Linwood, in part because of affordability and in part because we didn't know where my husband would be working. He might be working to the north in Everett, to the east in Bellevue, or to the south in Seattle, and we weren't sure, so we located here. We'd have good access in all 3 directions. So I think, again, depending on what your trade, if you don't go to an office, if you go in a lot of different places, or if you and your spouse go in opposite directions, think about living close to this intersection where you can get in all the different ways. Linwood is great. It has Alderwood Mall. It has all sorts of shopping, every restaurant you could imagine, one of the first Chipotles in the area. So we became fan favorites over there pretty quick. But what I would say it's missing is a good downtown community core. There's no real walkable, like get out and shop on foot and meet your neighbors, take the kids in a stroller. That's the thing that it doesn't have. So if that's something that's important to you, then maybe give Linwood a pass, spend your time in Edmonds, drive down to Bothell Landing, go to the beach in Kenmore, something like that instead. You can also go north up here to Mukilteo. They have the Mukilteo Lighthouse, the Mukilteo Ferry. They have a Mukilteo Farmers Market and a lot of golf courses. A lot of pilots live here because we're close to Payne Field, the airfield, and we're also close to the northern Boeing airplane manufacturing facility. You might have noticed that we have one here, one in Renton, south of the lake, and one over by SeaTac Airport. So Boeing is all over this area. We do a lot of manufacturing here for Boeing, and so a lot of plane buffs are in the area, and especially concentrated here near Mukilteo. Martha Lake is great, tiny little lake, warm for swimming. Mill Creek, nice sort of estate style homes, some golf courses, good privacy and accessibility here. And then we go into Everett. A lot of people choose not to live in Everett because some areas are a little bit rougher, especially near the historic downtown areas, but there are some very cute homes here. There are a lot of walkable streets and shopping, and there's great harbor and water access. A lot of this is more industrial manufacturing type of things going on in the water, not as much beachy park type stuff, although they do have view parks and water access parks. So just use caution in choosing the suburb or the area that you're looking at here, because there is some crime. And I had the experience of driving to a showing one time in Everett for a new construction home that was an infill property in an older neighborhood. And the lady called me on the way there. She's like, I'm not coming to see you at the showing. Like, we just passed a homeless person lying on the street and we don't feel comfortable. Click, that was it. Everett was not for her. So the good thing about Everett is that it's more affordable, and it is a huge city. You know, they've got a prison here as an employment center, as well as the Navy folks and a lot of other businesses here. This is also the location of the Snohomish County Courthouse. So there are courthouse and associated jobs there. The city of Snohomish is an antiquing capital. It was rated as one of the coolest places to come visit by TripAdvisor. It definitely has that old world charm of like you're walking in streets with buildings that have been there for 100 years. So if you like antiquing, you like that old world kind of small business vibe, there's a lot of that here that tends to lean more conservative politically, and a lot of community support for businesses. It's a semi-rural area. You'll see horses, garden centers, plants being grown, nurseries. There we go, that type of a thing. And then up here, Lake Stevens, this will be the last one that I do. It's a big lake, has a lot of modest lakefront property around here compared to what we see at some around Lake Washington. And this has good access over to Everett as well. So a lot of people who want to be maybe working in Everett but not living there will commute back and forth from Lake Stevens. So thanks so much for watching today. I hope this gave you some good insight on some neighborhoods to check out and what the vibe might be in some of those that you're considering. If you have further questions, feel free to reach out to me or click on the links to my neighborhood profiles of these areas on my website. You can get a little bit more information and learn what I do as a real estate agent, helping people to buy and sell property, especially in association with this channel. I get a lot of relocation clients who are moving to Seattle for the first time or moving back and want a little help finding their home. So let me know how I can help you. And until then, I'll see you on the next video.